Welcome back to Slow Night Ancient Tales. Tonight, the air is still and the shadows are long. I invite you to travel back to the snowy, winding roads and quiet alleys of 1920s Korea. We are about to read a deeply intimate letter written from the fragile heart of a young man. It is a story of unrequited affection, the bittersweet ache of youth, and the quiet, painful unraveling of a friendship. Written by the classic Korean author Na Do-hyang. This is a tale of a heart caught between the idealized light of a star and the harsh, cold ground of reality. So, dim the lights, draw the blankets close, let your breathing slow, and let the echoes of the past wash over you. Here is, if you embrace a star, do not weep. If you embrace a star, do not weep. Before I even write this letter, sister, I want to call out your name. I want to call out sister, sister, in a voice trembling with so much emotion that it brings me to tears. Was it all just a dream? If it had been a dream, it might have felt empty, but there would have been some small comfort in letting it go. Yet, I am afraid it was no dream. It was a vivid, undeniable reality that has simply stepped backward through time. Even after waking from a sad dream, a sudden wave of sorrow can make you weep. So how could I not cry? How could my chest not ache when I look back at that hazy past? It left an agonizing wound in my small heart, dyed me in a deep blue sorrow, and carved a heartbreaking impression into my soul that I can never erase. But the distant past is gone. It is not that I didn't desperately wish to paint my life as a beautiful, happy history, but it has already passed, so what can I do? We cannot walk backward through time. I suppose I will just call it destiny, as people say of lives that appear and vanish by chance. I will just cover it up and taste this melting sensation of regret whenever these memories unexpectedly return. On that day, as always, I went to R's house in C neighborhood. My head was bowed, lost in some hazy thought. R looked at me with the same gladness, reaching out his pale right hand to shake mine. I stepped into his house, sat on the edge of the wooden floor, and said, "Shall I be the regular wanderer at your house again today?" I untied my shoes, went into the room, tossed my hat aside, and slumped onto the floor. I reached into R's coat pocket, pulled out a cigarette, and lit it. Outside, the light snow that had nearly stopped was falling weakly, with a soft, rustling sound. For some reason, R's face did not hold its usual joyful, carefree light. To my jokes, he only offered a faint, lonely smile at the corners of his mouth. Seeing this, I suddenly felt completely drained of energy and sat there blankly blowing cigarette smoke. R sat quietly, lost in thought, and then suddenly called out, "DH, what is it?" I asked. "Shall we go to KC today?" Being someone who always loved to wander, I answered brightly, "Let's go." Smiled in deep satisfaction. "Then let us go." He quickly scribbled a letter, I did not know to whom, and we set off toward KC. They say KC is about 20 miles away. According to R, we had to cross a rugged mountain path to get there. It was already past 11 in the morning. By the time we arrived, it would be dark. On top of that, heavy snowflakes were piling up like mountains, melting as they fell. Regardless, we left. Like joyful children, we practically skipped as we began our journey. When we got off the tram at Wangsimni station, the dark clouds were beginning to scatter. A blindingly bright sun pierced through the clouds, dyeing the freshly fallen white snow with sparkling rainbow colors. Every time I stepped on the snow, I heard a soft, heartbreaking crunch. It sounded like the chirping of a young oriole escaping the red lips of a maiden. Feeling as though I had entered some realm of euphoria, I held tightly to R's hand, looking down at the winding country road in the distance, walking slowly. But R's mood was not good. A dark shadow seemed to cover his forward-looking eyes, as if the memory of some blue sorrow was wrapping itself around him. Sometimes he didn't even answer my words. He would just let out a quiet, invisible sigh, his chest sinking heavily. From time to time, the sounds of country wood peddlers heading towards Seoul echoed through the quiet air. The sound crawled bleakly into my hot, restless blood. In the vast, wide fields, all we could see was snow and the occasional gaunt, solitary tree. Every time I saw one, I thought of the northern lands. I thought of a wandering life with no destination. I even imagined that the two of us were truly setting off on a vagabond's journey. R just watched me happily skipping along, offering only a lonely smile. When we crossed the SC River, It was truly delightful. Whirlwinds blew sharply from corner to corner. As we trudged through the deep snow, silver-like snow dust scattered hither and thither in the wind. It was so charming, I wanted to embrace it. We held hands on that snow-covered sandbank, shouting, 1, 2, as we ran. When we reached the SP River, the menacing blue waves rolled and surged in the wind, looking as if they were wrinkled and bruised. We crossed the river on a ferry. While we were eating lunch at a tavern, R spoke to me. "Would you like a drink of alcohol?" I was so surprised I could only repeat, "Alcohol," and say no more. It was incredibly strange for R, who did not know how to drink, to volunteer for one. I, who was following him without even knowing why we were going to KC, had no need to question his reasons for drinking. He drank alcohol for the very first time. We kept walking. The alcohol seemed to endlessly excite the usually melancholic R. He began to speak loudly, swinging his arms. He grabbed my hand tightly. "DH," he called out, his voice filled with deep emotion. "Call me your older brother." After a brief pause, he added, "I understand you, DH, and I acknowledge you completely." Ah, what a grateful thing to hear. I was born into a destiny where I had a younger sibling, but no older brother. I never had someone to hold my hand and lead me through the woods behind our house. I never had someone to carry me on their back to the water's edge. I had no one to rub my face against, to act childish with. I had only tasted loneliness in my young heart amidst unshed tears. I never knew the soft love of a grandfather or grandmother stroking my head. And my father and mother were young themselves. Whenever I think of my past, from childhood to this very day, a corner of my heart feels choked. So how joyful must I have been to hear someone tell me to call him brother and to call me his little brother. How glad I must have been, and how thankful I was to hear that he understood me and acknowledged me, even just a little. Yet, to those grateful, joyful words, I did not immediately say yes. I do not know if my refusal was a mistake, but regardless, I could not force out the word yes. I do not know if that saddened R's heart, or if it gave him some strange satisfaction, but this is how I answered. "Those are kind words. If we stand on common ground, exchanging understanding and acknowledgement, nothing could be happier. But couldn't we do that without calling each other brother? Isn't there no need to create such a formal title?" Hearing this, he seemed to realize something. "I suppose that is true," he said, and squeezed my hand even tighter. The golden sound of a bell echoed through the clear blue sky. Did it fade away, or did it vibrate through the ether filling the universe, traveling endlessly? When the bell rang from the red brick church looking down on the city below in Wangsan Mountain, R and I walked inside. You were sitting there too, sister, and so was Miss MP. It wasn't my first time seeing Miss MP, but the more I looked at her, the more something about her kept changing. She was different today than the last time. The previous time I had looked at her with considerable anxiety. I might have even felt a bit of disappointment, but this time, for some unknown reason, a charm invisibly radiated from her. It enveloped my emotions in a hazy fog, offering a pale golden light. Then, like a thick, golden liquid spreading across a flat surface, that light slowly, invisibly transformed into a deep, crimson red, and finally, into the color of a beautiful maiden's pink blouse. Every time it seemed like she might turn her head, the blood in my entire body felt as if it were catching fire. A heavenly light of happiness seemed to pour over my whole body. That church service, lasting only an hour, tormented my heart for no reason. Anyway, the service ended. R and I came outside. You were waiting for me, sister. While you and I were talking, why did Miss MP, who had been following you, suddenly see me, blush, turn her head, and run away in the opposite direction? She says it wasn't like that. But sister, whether she turned her head and ran, or whether her face burned like the evening glow from shyness, what does it matter to me now? But why did she act that way upon seeing me? She probably wouldn't have done that if she saw another man. And how did her heart feel after she ran around the corner? Didn't she feel even more embarrassed? Or perhaps, didn't she feel a sense of regret? Regardless, that was the first impression MP gave me. It was the very first motive that placed me at the crossroads of ecstasy and agony. I suppose there will be a day when I leave this time and space, but I am afraid. Will this deeply embedded life leave an eternal trace behind in that time and space? For beloved sister, why did you steal my manuscript and show it to Miss MP? How much must she have laughed while reading it? Should I punish you for stealing it, or should I reward you? I will fall to my knees and bow to you. I will open the gates of heaven for you. But did she mean to show off her clumsy handwriting on my manuscript? Surely not, right? That couldn't be it. But what should I say to the one who stained my manuscript? Yet that handwriting seemed to convey something to my heart. It delivered something that no human lips or brush could ever imitate, something that torments the chest of a young man wandering in a drunken dream. 5. Thank you. You said that you and Miss MP are like inseparable siblings now, didn't you? And that you call each other brother and sister. I am only grateful. I only hope for something eternal. But for me, the formal rope of siblings tying you and MP together torments me for no reason. It leaves me wandering between anxiety and despair. If I am your younger brother, you are my sister. Since Miss MP is 1 year older than me, then I should also call her sister. Ah, but is that possible? It isn't hard to call her sister, but if my lips ever speak that word, from that day on, the burning pink light radiating from her will disappear. It will be as if it were severed by a sharp blade. No, even if it doesn't disappear, I would have to close my eyes to it. Ah, the dreadful word sister. I am terrified to even let the sound reach my lips. Today, I was writing a manuscript to send to PC. My head ached, and I had no inspiration. I roughly folded the paper I had laid out, threw it away, stretched, retied my ankle bands, grabbed my hat, and went outside. The clock had already passed 10 minutes after 7. My destination, needless to say, was R's house. And the image of Miss MP, who never leaves my eyes whether I am reading, writing, walking, staring at the ceiling in bed, or closing my eyes in meditation, I saw her again today while walking to R's house. I think of MP all the time. I danced, sang, and talked with a vain illusion, and in the end, I fear I held her hand and tasted the absolute extremes of joy in this world. But when I realized it was nothing but an empty fantasy, I grew inexplicably tired of it all. Everything became an annoyance. Everything became a seed of pessimism. Ah, truly, if only for a fraction of a second, if my illusion could find a place in MP's mind, what a happiness that would be. But it felt as though she didn't think of me at all, and my heart ached for no reason. Was not home that day. My heart grew inexplicably sentimental, as if I were about to cry. So I decided to wander aimlessly. First, I went to L's house. L, a man I envy for lacking even an ounce of falsehood when he is with a maiden, saw me. A deadly glad smile spread across his dark face. He grabbed my wrist, pulled me into his room, and asked, since I had just visited yesterday, "Why haven't you come to see me lately?" Seeing L, who lives in such deep isolation, the sentimentality I had been carrying seemed to gather right in the center of my chest, and I felt like crying. I forced it down and sat blankly. Then L demanded that I sing a solo. Any other time, I would have complained that my ears were hurting and sung endlessly, but today, something was pulling at my throat. My voice would not come out at all. I forcibly dressed L, who was throwing a tantrum and refusing to get up, and dragged him outside. The evening fog hid the moonlight. Only red electric lights hung in rows along the main street of Yongno, like pearls strung through the darkness. The two of us had come out, but we had nowhere to go. We had no money in our pockets to enjoy the evening. We had no friend's house to visit. We only felt increasingly annoyed and lonely. Ultimately, we decided to visit the house of the one who always smiles without reason. We went to a house, but he, who was not expecting us, was not there. Left with no choice, we decided to go to Sol Young's house and walk down toward the stream. The street lamp in the alley smiled brightly, as if waiting for someone. We went inside and called out, "Sol Young!" From the inner room, a clever voice rang out. "Who is it?" "She's here," we said to each other. We were inexplicably glad. Sol Young came all the way out to the edge of the wooden floor. "Oh, my welcome! Why haven't you visited even once?" she said. "Ah, sister." Whether that voice was genuine, or a lie, or just words born of habit, I don't care to think about it. For a pitiful person like me, chased by sentimentality and wandering aimlessly, how much did her welcoming words comfort my exhausted soul? She swore she would call me brother. She asked me to be her brother forever. Sister, do I truly possess the qualifications to receive the respect of being called an older brother? Of course, it is a formality I do not desire, but I will love So-young like a real younger sister. I will make her my eternal sister. So-young, who is all alone, must also want the affection of a true older brother. But, in this fleeting world, where is the true God who would permit such a thing? The thought is just agonizing. That day, Elle tormented So-young relentlessly. It was, of course, just innocent, childish play. Elle lunged to catch her. So-young screamed, laughing a ticklish laugh, and ran toward me to hide. "Brother! Brother!" she cried out, dodging Elle. When So-young, even in jest, sought my protection from Elle, I wondered, am I truly someone worthy of being asked for protection by a woman? When I felt that all other women wouldn't even look at me, the fact that So-young alone asked for my help made her seem so incredibly precious. I wanted to hug her. But is it just a phantom shadow that appears and vanishes? Is it just the shimmering haze of a spring day? What exactly is eternity? The weather has grown very warm. I plan to come and see you sometime tomorrow. Please wait for me in the afternoon. Also, I heard W left for Tokyo yesterday. I am very sad I couldn't see him. I heard S and Y are also heading there in a few days. I suppose my lonely self will be left all alone in Seoul. All my dear friends are leaving for their own destinations. Why did I go to you yesterday, sister? Was going there a good opportunity for me? Or was it a bad one? Regardless, yesterday I finally spoke to MP for the first time. I sat close to her, looking at her with a trembling gaze, and upon the few rays of vision radiating from my eyes, I sent the restless messenger of my soul. She was completely different from the time she saw me in front of the church and ran away. In her heart, from corner to corner, perhaps she was judging me with goodwill, or judging me with malice. Well, surely not malice. Regardless, she must have been evaluating me through constant observation, yet her eyes and complexion were entirely calm, and her incredibly beautiful voice, it was soft, tender, and shone like silver, intoxicating my mind. Her excessive praise of my writing made me a bit embarrassed, and her use of the honorific title teacher made me incredibly agonizing. Sister, what if she hadn't called me teacher, but called me brother? In that very second, everything of mine would have turned to absolute despair. Only now do I realize that there would come a day when I, who hate being called a teacher, would find it a blessing to hear it. Regardless, I got the chance to meet MP. We exchanged words. This must have been the first time words passed between MP and me. It must have been a singular syllable, never to be repeated in the life of the universe. But I feel anxious. I am unbearably anxious. Was that single moment of opportunity a good one? Was it a happy one? Was it the moment the key turned with a click, unlocking infinite hope and eternal happiness for me? Or was it the moment that would pour upon me the sigh of regret, making me wish I had just lived hazily with only a sliver of vain hope before fading away into endless doubt and anguish? Regardless, on one side I dream of good fortune, and on the other I wander in futile despair. 9 today, I barely woke up at 9 in the morning. Thanks to wandering around pointlessly late last night, I achieved the blessing of not waking up early. But perhaps because it was a blessing, R came and tormented me. Chased by his torment, I barely managed to wake up and wash my face. It was strange. I go to R's house often, but he never visits mine. For him to come find me first thing in the morning was truly unexpected and odd. He seemed deeply frustrated. For the past few days, his face hasn't looked good. There has always been a light of disappointment in it. Today, too, he sat in silence. He just stared off at the distant mountains. He asked to go for a walk somewhere. I didn't even eat breakfast and set out aimlessly with him. We took the tram and went to H and P's houses. H had just eaten and left for somewhere, and P said he had business at home and couldn't go. Left with no choice, the two of us set off toward HC. The weather was clear, the breeze was gentle. It was a beautiful spring day. We got off the tram, the noon siren fired. Bang! The distant HC river flowed as silently as it did in the old days. There was no sound, no scent, no laughter. It just reflected the jade-green shadow of the mountain in the blue water. Our irrepressible exclamations of, "Ah, how beautiful!" were the only things faintly ringing through the quiet silence. We walked down to the bank and sat on an empty boat tied lazily to the shore, looking out over the water without a word. On the blue water, tiny ripples trembled slightly, looking like spinning silver threads. I felt like I could hear the rustle of those silver threads unraveling and winding up again. We sat there for a long time. Suddenly, we looked across the water. My heart plummeted, and a cold sweat seemed to run down my entire body. Over there, floating lazily on the silk-like water, completely still as if melting into the river. On that yacht, incredibly, sat MP, side by side with some other companion. But MP, whether she saw me and ignored me, or just didn't see me, was only looking at and hearing her own things. I wanted to run to MP. But what if she saw me and pretended not to? She was only a few dozen yards away. Why couldn't she see me? Could she really not have seen me? Only thinking this, I was afraid to go to her, and I just felt inexplicably resentful towards something invisible. But what was this? I, who thought I was the only one who knew MP, could not hide my shock at R's reaction. R pulled on my hand. MP is here, he said. Hearing that, I belly pondered how R knew her. Something flashed through my mind like lightning, and I felt a sudden dread toward him. R boldly walked over to MP. I followed him. R took off his hat and bowed to her. But sister, to my greeting, given without full sincerity and clouded by hazy suspicion and anxiety, a faint red smile hovered at the edges of her lips, and golden light shone in her warm eyes. And then her unique tone, which seemed to melt my entire body. "Oh my, how did you come here?" soaked me in an essence of pure ecstasy in that moment. The two of us bid her farewell and came straight back into the city. For some reason, my heart was endlessly joyous. The blood in my veins began to boil even hotter. But R's face grew more sorrowful than before, a look of disappointment washing over him. The lonely smile and lonely tone that circled him were pitiful enough to arouse my sympathy. I asked R, "How did you know MP?" With an expression as if looking at a phantom from the past, he replied, "I've known her for a while." Hearing this, I wondered if the melody of love that sparks between a man and a woman had been tied between MP and R. All the joy I had felt up to that point slowly twisted into a sentimental disappointment. Gradually, I began to wander in doubt. Even so, R's look of despair and MP's cold reception toward him made me feel enough sympathy to cry for him. Yet, in one corner of my mind, I felt the satisfaction of a victor's pride. Standing the unfortunate R next to me, I fortunately tasted pure joy. That day I decided to sleep at R's house. By past 11 at night, the two of us had barely spoken. I became aware of a painful distance between us. Every time the thick colors of his blue sorrow and gray despair washed over his face, I felt inexplicably anxious. I was afraid to ask R the reason for his dark mood. If that sorrow and disappointment wasn't because of MP, but something else, then I would have tasted the exact same sorrow and disappointment, wouldn't I? Yet, if I didn't attribute the sorrow and despair of my brother like R to MP, my heart became so anxious I couldn't endure it. That night, R lay in bed, seemingly unable to sleep a wink. His eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling. He just lay quietly, holding his head, eyes closed as if in deep meditation. His thin eyebrows were trembling slightly. For some reason, sleep escaped me too. I picked up a book from the shelf near my head, read it for a long while, and finally drifted off. 10. I have become a foolish man. Believing in dreams, if I meet a blind man on the road, my legs lose their strength in utter disappointment. I started plucking the petals of a flower, counting 1, 2, asking, "Does MP love me or love me not?" Plucking them one by one. If the final petal fell on "She loves me," I was satisfied enough to dance, as if I had succeeded. If it fell on "She loves me not," I fell into pointless despair, only then mocking the futility of it all. Yet before long, I find myself unbearably wanting to pluck those petals again. I have become a man hoping for good luck, and at the same time, an unspeakable superstitious fool. Today I did not intend to visit you, sister, but W asked me to find a piece of writing, so I went to your house. While waiting for you to come out, I paced the platform in front of the main gate with a calm, quiet heart. Then I heard the sound of the door opening. The person who came out was not you, sister, but MP. Seeing me, she gave a bright smile and bowed her head in greeting. She stood there. The person who followed her out was you. My heart was strangely delighted. I felt as though I had gained some grand hope. As I walked the streets, Always hoping for a fleeting chance to meet MP and exchange greetings, I used to carry that expectation every time I visited you. Even today, I hadn't entirely abandoned that hope, but I had firmly resigned myself to the thought that she wouldn't be there. So meeting her was a complete surprise. Sister, why did MP come out to see me even before you did? Was it the heart of a sister coming out to meet a younger brother? Or was it the heart of a lover coming out to meet her beloved? What was it? She spoke with me for a long time. The three of us strolled through the green grass, didn't we? As we walked down that narrow path, I asked MP, "How did you get to know R?" With a slightly flushed face, yet still wearing a smile, MP answered, "Oh, I've just met him a couple of times before." Hearing that, I immediately said, "R is a truly good person." At that, MP immediately changed the subject. After about 10 minutes, you and I seemed to hesitate, as if we had private matters to discuss. Being clever, MP immediately caught on and went back inside. At that moment, my heart was so full of regret. Even if we couldn't discuss our important matters, I didn't want her to leave. But the shadow of her black skirt vanished from sight. Then, sister, you told me a story. You told me that R tried to love MP, but she rejected him, and that when MP saw the manuscript you had stolen, she offered praise beyond expectations. But the one thing she found dissatisfying was that I lacked faith. I said goodbye to you, came out the gate, and walked so fast I was practically running. Am I a blessed man or a cursed one? I shouted to myself. But regarding the claim that my faith was lacking, I felt a considerable amount of displeasure, and on the other hand, a faint despair. I returned home, lay down on the warm floor, and tried painting the connection between MP and me in beautiful, holy rainbow colors. But every time I thought of the word faith, I immediately wandered back into doubt. Then I remembered the book I had read at R's house, and the diary of the heroine, Elena. She compared her lover Insarov with Kurnatovsky, the man her father wanted her to marry. Insarov had faith, but Kurnatovsky did not. Because believing only in oneself cannot be called having faith, sister. When I read those words, I felt a pointless despair. Elena loved the man with faith, and she did not love the man without it. Then, MP will also always love a man with faith. So when MP said I lacked faith, it meant she might consider me a younger brother or a friend, but never a lover. Sister, should I be disappointed? Should I despair? What is faith? Of course, no one is entirely without it. Some believe in Jesus, some in Buddha, some in idols. We believe in many things. And yes, there are people who believe in themselves. And sister, I must have something I believe in too, right? Because it's a lie to say a person without faith can live and breathe in this world. Because everyone lives in this world because they have their own faith. I, who am also alive, must have some kind of faith. Those who blindly follow a religion think their faith alone is the true faith, and they mock the faith of others. But one who opens their eyes wider and looks around can compare this and that. They can find the strengths and the flaws in each. If you pull the blanket over your head, of course, you will think the world exists only under that blanket. You will think true truth exists only there. But the one who has thrown off the blanket, who knows the world is not just under it, will feel pity for the one hiding beneath it. Well, there have been many in this world who have thrown off the blanket, and they deeply pitied those who pulled it over their heads. Then I too wish to be one of those who throws off the blanket. Under whatever name it may be, I want to be a person who believes in the unchanging truth that fills the universe from eternity to eternity. I simply want to seek it and to experience it. Of course, humans are weak. Our minds and bodies are not always strong. Even if I sometimes do things against my will, it's only because I am weak. And when I realize it, I will And sister, let me be clear on one thing. I will not become a Vinicius through a faith like Lygia's in Quo Vadis. But sister, why am I writing such things? What greater faith is there in this world than love? To sacrifice even one's life, that only happens when there is love. If a person is born of love, dies of love, and lives through love, then that person's life is a true life. But whenever I think of love, my heart pounds. When seeking love from another for the first time, who wouldn't hesitate? Who wouldn't feel their chest tremble? Then, is love a sin? Why do we feel the same trembling and anxiety as a sinner? Yes, Our human lives face two great problems: passion and reason. The history of this world is a battle between these two, and the root of all misfortune lies where this passion and reason cannot tolerate each other. Seeing a beloved, being unable to express my heart, doubting and agonizing all alone, this too is because of reason, isn't it? I want to figure out how to become a person of pure passion, oblivious to reason. Yet, even the desire to become such a person is dictated by reason. I want to become like that too. Today I went to R's house again. R was not there, but hearing from his family that he would return shortly, I ended up waiting in his room. If R and I were not as close as brothers, I wouldn't have been able to sit in an empty room without its owner. The something that says we are close is what allowed me into his room. I went into his room and sat at his desk. Suddenly a letter he had written caught my eye. The envelope read, my heart surged with jealousy and an overwhelming desire to read it took over. Fortunately, the letter was unsealed. I read it. Inside, these words were written. DH is an immature writer, and nothing more than a mere bourgeois. Ah, sister, my hands trembled. I placed the letter back exactly where it was and ran out of the house. Walking down the street, everything felt so resentful I could have cried. And on the other hand, an unbearable anger welled up inside me. I truly never knew that my beloved R would write such things. Sister, it is true, isn't it? I am immature at writing. I won't argue against that in the slightest. But why did he say that to MP? Ah, sister, I only want to become a true human being. I do not want the titles of literary man or writer. I only read texts to become a true human. And I couldn't bear what I felt. I hoped that my feelings and realizations might offer even a small help to our human lives. But the success of a single individual is hard to achieve. What I feel and realize, along with the long, long life of the universe and the realizations of so many people, will amount to barely 1 in hundreds of millions. And on the day my life ends, it will only add a tiny fraction more. Even if my finite mind and body desired something greater, they would not permit it. So, whether I'm called a bourgeois, a proletarian, or anything else, I only ever try to be a true human being. Perhaps even a person who thinks they alone have realized all the truths of the world could not escape this desire to become a true human being. But today, I have lost a dear friend. No matter how generously I try to treat R as I did before, he is someone who slandered me. How can I continue our friendship as before? Yet my heart is in agony. When I think of his promise on the way to KC to live as brothers, when I think of the affection we shared and how it was shattered in a single instant, my heart aches deeply. Even in that, I wanted to hold R's hand and find joy. When I left my house, my younger brother L ran after me crying, "Brother, brother, take me with you," he cried out. He stood there, arms wide open, looking at me. Though my feet wouldn't move, I had no choice but to leave L with our mother and go find R again. Having been unable to sleep until late last night, I had woken up early again that day, so my body was quite exhausted. On my way to R's house, I told myself several times that I wouldn't go. I, who used to go every day, hadn't visited for a week, and I didn't have much desire to go today either. The more I thought of R, the more angry and frustrated I felt. I always tried to suppress it, but my inner heart was never at peace. When I entered R's house, my mood was incredibly grim. Seeing me, R weakly took my hand and greeted me. "Welcome," he said, but his voice was completely devoid of joy. Before seeing him, I thought I would greet him gladly, but upon meeting him, the thought of being with him disgusted me. I wanted to walk right back out. I stood there and said, "I haven't seen you in many days, so I thought I'd stop by before leaving." I looked up at him. He simply nodded his head. "Yeah." I wanted to run out instantly, so I said, "Let's see each other tomorrow," and ran straight out. Didn't say a word and just went into his room. Ah, sister, why did the two of us become so distant? What rift formed between us? What string snapped? I cannot understand it. It happened while I was walking down Jongno. Unexpectedly, MP was walking from the other direction. At that moment, I intended to meet her and say hello. But MP, walking with a man in a suit, either didn't see me or pretended not to, and passed right by my side. I simply watched her pass, clenched my fists tightly, and said to myself, "Ah, let it go." In unspeakable anguish, I said to myself, "Ah, I will just go see Sol Young." I went down to the stream to find her house. At the time, I didn't even think that Sol-young might not be there. I took it for granted that I would see her. But to my call for Sol-young, our clever and cute little sister's voice didn't answer. Her mother answered coldly, "She's not here," treating me like an ordinary customer. Hearing that, I felt a pointless sadness. It felt as if Sol-young treated me just like a passing guest. Wondering if she had gone out to meet some lover, I, trying to play the older brother, felt a pang of jealousy. Let it all go, I thought, as a deep sentimentality washed over me. I went straight home. El, who had been playing by the gate, welcomed me. He opened his arms wide, threw himself into my embrace, twisted his body, and rubbed his small, ticklish, cold hands against my cheeks. At that moment, all my sentimental emotions seemed to gather right in the center of my chest, and I felt like crying. Then El said, "Brother, you dummy." I tried to kiss him, but dissatisfied with something, he said, "No, hold my ears." He grabbed both of my ears with his hands and tried to kiss me, then said again, "Brother, you hold my ears too." I held El's ears and kissed him, but then El looked up at me. "Brother is crying." "Ah, sister." Tears fell from my eyes. I just wanted to hold El tightly and weep. The tears of a young man, finally spilling over onto the cold hands of a child. Have you ever felt the stinging cold of a fading friendship, or the distant, unreachable warmth of a first love? Youth is so often a time of agonizing, beautiful illusions, where every glance feels like destiny, and every silent rejection feels like the end of the world. I hope this letter from the past offered a gentle comfort to any scars you might carry from your own youthful days. Thank you for spending this quiet, solitary night with me, here at Slow Night Ancient Tales. May your heart find peace in the dark, and may your dreams be gentle. Good night.